Live streaming started, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Sheikh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, very, very warm welcome to another edition of Talk. Only difference is now we are joining you virtually. We are so much used to having an event in person at MMA Management Center. Now to come on online, I'm feeling a little out of place. Earlier I'm used to only online, but I mean, since the time we started activities at MMA Management Center, it's been a full house and people are happily coming. They're doing a lot of networking, but not to worry because sometimes you have to get online because when the speakers, outstation speakers, and some of them are joining from different part of the country. So online helps better. And as usual, the format of the program, I'll explain to you just a while now. Let me also briefly tell you what's happening in MMA just next 1 minute. On the 1st of August, that's what's happening today, this evening. It's a great talk. I'm going to explain to you a little later. On 16th of August, we have Professor Alladi Krishnamurthy. Alladi Krishnamurthy is a famous constitution, who is also author of the constitution, great jurist. And there's a book written on him, the Alladi Diary and the Memories of Alladi, written by his son. What was happened, how the people visited his house and the constitution was written. Very, very interesting facts. So we are going to have a discussion with him. It's happening on 16th. On 19th, 10 years of CSR. I mean, since the time the CSR law is introduced, it's going to be 10 years now. And what is the thing happened last 10 years? How we progress and what are the various lessons learned? What are the various rules, regulations? What should be the implementing authority should know? What should be the donor should know? What should be the donee? A lot of expectations. We did a full day seminar. We have got some outstanding Honorable Justice Seshai is going to be inaugurating the session. We have Devarajan, is a CI Road. He's also managing director of URC Constructions, and Mr. Pafai Pandirajan, he is going to be one of the speakers. Nikhil Pant is again authority from Delhi, who is very well versed in CSR activities. Mr. Kiswami and also Mr. Ravi, who is a senior vice president finance, Roots Group of Companies, Coimbatore. Then Madras Day. How can we leave Madras Day without a great quiz? Besides number of activities, we are having the great quiz on Madras Day on 20th on Sunday. This is a quiz which is brought to you by Murugappa Group, and MMA is one of the partners for this event. And it's a great event. Number of rounds with attractive prizes. It's live webcast, so you can watch it live on 20th August Sunday from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Then on Tuesday 22nd August, again we have as usual Read and Grow, another interesting subject. Again, excellent speakers. Monday 28th August, MMA policy matters. We have the event on all about stock market. Stock market. What stock market? Is it war valued or what? We are going to get some outstanding speakers, one from the fund, one from the security agency, other one from the consultant, who are doing something like, the people who really do a lot of evaluation to understand, are we in the right path? Is the right time to invest? Is the right time to exit? It could be interesting event. This is happening on 31st August. Let me hope by then what happened in stock market, we don't know. 31st is a long way to go. Coming to, there are a number of events already lined up for the month of September and October. I won't really go through that. Now, coming to today's event, very, very interesting event, Midlife Career Challenges for Women. This is a subject which is very well discussed, a lot of deliberation, a lot of conferences I've seen, but still there's an issue which everybody faces. And this is a time subject which when Maitri suggested and Rajeshwari agreed, we got two outstanding person and also Lata also joined. We are going to have a very interesting, as usual, after introducing the speaker, I will hand it over to Maithili. The speaker will make a presentation. Thereafter, we'll be open to questions, maybe a brief interaction with the special invitees. Then, as usual, if you have a question, there's a number on your WhatsApp group. Please share your question, all the viewers watching. And only questions, please, who are in Zoom, only send your questions so that we can respond to all your questions. This was the format, and as much as you, I'm also looking forward for a great evening. Before I will hand over the session to Maithili, let me briefly introduce the distinguished speakers for this evening. To chair this session, we have Maithili. It really doesn't need an introduction because she has been a part of our team for the last so many, at least 2 years now. But consumer behavior and brand strategy enthusiast, and she got over 35 years of experience in brand strategy. Recently retired as a senior VP from National Planning Director of J. Walter Thompson, and published over 75 articles in India's leading US and UK media. And all these have been already shared with you in the introduction. Co-authored Voice Within, and also a coffee table book on the mastery of Carnatic music, specialized in brand strategy, integrated marketing communication, inside mining, and much more. Very warm welcome to Maiti. Thank you for leading our Women's Forum and bringing some outstanding speaker and tap. Let me have the privilege of introducing Dr. Rajeshwari Krishnamurthy. Rajeshwari Krishnamurthy is an area chair marketing here at Center for Women Leadership, Great Lake Institute of Management, and a consistent academic topper. Rajeshwari has a total professional experience of 27 years, of which 16 years was in the industry, sales, marketing, Unilever, Nippon, the best of the multinationals, and 11 years in academia. She won the Chairman's Award for the Sales Management in her Unilever stint at a very early age. Her last corporate position was Vice President Marketing and Branding. She has been responsible for managing both the top line and bottom line results of many organizations and has traveled extensively, both domestic and international, while dealing with many cross-cultural teams. She was also nominated as a Distinguished Young Alumni Achiever of IIM Ahmedabad in 2016. Rajeshwari authored a number of books, as I mentioned to you. And this third one is recently published called The New Plan A in 2018 and focused on the various midlife career challenges faced by the working woman and the stakeholders' intervention required for them to resume their career. This is one I'm quite sure many of you will be eagerly looking. And Lata Rajagopal also joined us this evening. She is a consultant in communication and development member of IAICS, and she has also been a great supporter of Women Business Forum. Now, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, who have joined us this evening. As usual, please send your questions. We'll place and answer all your questions. Now, over to Maithili to take it forward, introduce the opening remarks, and set the context for the talk this evening. Over to you, Maithili.
Thank you very much, Group Captain, and welcome everybody to another evening of storytelling and inspiration at the Women's Forum, which I think this month we are completing 2 years of such evenings. So over the 2 years, we have had a very, very, very wide spectrum of speakers, largely focusing on women, though always the talks have been of general interest as well. There's always learning for both genders, but we have brought a woman's perspective. We have talked about women choosing to follow what they want to study and having the freedom to choose their own careers. Entering the workforce, why do educated women fall out and not enter the workforce? Having entered the workforce, why do more people fall off and don't stay the course? Whether it's in the early years or whether it's in the mid years, and then of course breaking the glass ceiling. So over the 2 years, we have all our topics have focused one way or the other in providing women with not just inspiration, but also perspectives and tools and ways to think about navigating their careers. And each speaker has come for a very special reason. Today we have Rajeshwari, who is going to cover a topic that we haven't spoken much about, which is midlife career challenges. Again, as I said, it is very relevant for men and women. What I will request Rajeshwari to do is please talk us through a little bit of your own journey.
Okay.
As you would have all seen, she has moved from marketing to academic, and alongside she's had a third pillar of authorship going. Don't know how she managed all that, but so we look forward to hearing from Rajeshwari on a little bit of her own story, and coming from there, what are the broader principles that arise? Why do midlife career challenges arise in the first place? What might be the variety of reasons? Is it any different for men and women? What are the guidelines to navigating change, and what does success look like? So we'll hear you out, Rajeshwari, and then I'm sure we all already have lots of questions, but we'll wait to hear your perspective. So thank you very much for coming forward to share your journey, and over to you.
So good evening, everyone. Absolute honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you, Captain Vijay Kumar, for this opportunity to talk to such a wonderful audience. And thank you, Maithili, for taking this forward and facilitating the whole talk. And my hello to everyone else who's present on the call here. So I'll just give maybe a short introduction about my journey. And then I thought I'll share some, slides with you, which will cover the contours of this topic of midlife career choices, which really caught my fancy in 2009 when I, after 15 years of working in corporate, decided to take a break because I could not do justice to this balancing act of being a super mom as well as a super professional at work. So I passed out of IIM Ahmedabad in 1994, and I worked in FMCG marketing sales companies for 15 years. Around 2009, I started feeling this, pangs of not being able to do justice to my own role as a mother and doing justice to my role as a head marketing in the organization that I was working in. I used to travel a lot, maybe 12, 15 days a week. My son was hardly about 5 to 6 years at that point of time. So I felt that I was shortchanging his needs and putting my needs over his, because he did not have the negotiating power or to talk back. I thought I was taking advantage of that. And somewhere I began to feel that what's the point in becoming a managing director at 40 when your son is not going to, get enough of your time. So that kind of began to gnaw at me for a few years, a couple of years. And then 2009, Jan 30th, I remember, is when I finally decided to take a break. I took a break without really, understanding or figuring out what I want to be doing for the rest of my professional career. I was hardly 36, 37 at that point of time. I realized that it had to be something that will take forward my experience till then. However, I wanted it on my own terms from a time point of view, because I realized that flexibility is very important for me. And therefore, I stumbled upon IIT Madras, which was close to my house. And I just met the chair professor there in marketing, and I just told him my situation. And he invited me for a brand management lecture, which I could take based on my Nippon Paint experience. The lecture went very well because I used a lot of real life examples, and students love to hear, industry real life examples. So post that, we had a chat, and he suggested that now that you're on a break and figuring out what to do, why don't you consider academics? Well, I was not fully convinced because I thought I had finished my share of academics after IMA. I was not necessarily looking at, doing a PhD or anything. I said, let me come back. And that's when I did this little bit of traveling across the country and decided to meet a few people across different walks of life who had spent about 15 to 20 years in corporate. What do people end up doing in the second part of their professional lives? Because our generation has this luxury of probably having multiple careers, thanks to the liberalization and opening of the economy in the 90s. People have the option of having multiple careers, unlike my father, for example, who retired as a government official, having started as one. So I met people across different, segments. I met people who had become entrepreneurs after their corporate stint, who had become social workers, who had gotten back to childhood passion after having their corporate stints, who had gone into academia also, and even gone into politics. So I met about 15 people across the country. And I actually started making notes because I realized that there is not much material, formal material available on the subject, on midlife career choices. So as I started making notes and interviewing these people, the story of Dr. Ramaswamy Raju, who was a then Dean of Anna University, struck a chord with me because he had worked for 22 years in railways. And he went on to doing his PhD at the age of 48. And then he shifted to academia. So as I spoke to him, more and more, I realized that I probably am striking a chord with his story. And academia began to appeal to me for a range of reasons. Right. So it allowed me to take forward what I had learned so far so I could share with the younger generation. It was probably less hectic in terms of travel. I didn't have to work long hours. And even if I did long hours, it was more on my terms. There was no like a 9 to 5 commitment, so on and so forth. So I went back to my IIT Madras professor and I told him, I think I'm ready for it. And I enrolled myself in a PhD in 2010. I finished my PhD in 2014 end, and I did my visiting faculty stint across a few IIMs during my PhD days, because I didn't want to really waste the corporate experience that I picked up. And 2015, I joined XLRA as a full-time faculty where I taught for a couple of years. And last 6 years, I've been with Great Lakes as a marketing faculty. So this is my journey in short. However, I wanted to dwell on this subject of midlife career choices also from a research point of view. So what I have done is I have culled out my learnings both as a professional as well as I used to conduct leadership workshops for middle management women at XLRA. I have taken leadership workshops for Reliance middle management, top management. So I ended up reading some material on it. So I put things together and really wanted to share that with you because that might be of a lot more, widely appealing value to all of you. So these are some things that I want to say, that we still think of a powerful man as a born leader and a powerful woman as an anomaly, right? So after similar levels of education, and whether it is a Harvard Business School or a Great Lakes, 8 to 10 years after passing out of B schools, women just go missing from the workforce, with the result that very few are available for top management leadership. Around 3% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women, just 15% of board seats are women, 14% of executive officers. So obviously, there is a talent crunch in terms of women representation. It's very clear that it's not because of their qualification or competence. It is just that the conditioning and the life journey seems to be not very favorable to women to continue with their careers. So if you look at this women and careers in terms of breaks that I was talking about, I think this, are you able to see the slide fully, Maithili?
Quite clear. Go ahead, please.
Okay, right. So 47% of the women take a career break at least once is what research says, and 70% never return to work, right? So it is not only a loss to her, it's a loss to her family, it's a loss to her children. I think a working woman is a terrific role model for children. It's obviously a loss to the nation and to the economy, right? So what can women do differently in order to continue with their careers and reach the top, right? Midlife is also the time where these are some peculiarities about a woman which she has to deal with, where the biological clock versus career clock conflict happens, right? So you're also expected to become a mother at that point of time. Your baby probably needs you a lot more. The way it happened to me, right? Your baby probably needs you the most. That's also the time where you have to really up your energy and presence at the workplace. So there is a clear conflict. There are more personal stakeholders in your life. You're probably married in your, mid 30s, late 30s. You have a spouse, you have in-laws, you have children, which also means you're playing multiple caretaker roles. And when I say multiple caretaker, I mean multiple primary caretaker roles. I think a society is still tilted towards the moms being primarily responsible for ensuring that there is fresh food on the table, or there is a primary nurturing role that she plays in terms of kids' upbringing or taking care of aged or sick in-laws. So obviously the spouse may pitch in, but the primary expectation is still from the lady, however talented or accomplished that she may be. I also want to talk about a particular career model called kaleidoscopic career model, which is very interesting. It actually researches men and women who have looked at their careers in a longitudinal study. Longitudinal is across a couple of decades. The study, traced them, and they found that there is a clear difference between the way a woman manages her career lifetime versus men. So for a woman, this is the trajectory she takes. She starts off as taking up challenging roles, which even men do. So both men and women start off by taking challenging roles. Somewhere around midlife, a woman seeks balance because she wants to balance her multiple roles. And maybe in her later career stage, she seeks authenticity, which is basically figuring out what she can really be good at, excelling, and make a mark for herself. That comes later in her life. However, for men, it is the other way around. They may start off as a challenging role seeker. Somewhere in midlife, they seek authenticity first, and then balance comes later, right? So this kind of understanding, there is obviously nothing right or wrong about it. That is the way probably it has been and the wiring happens. If you're able to understand it and complement each other's role well in your lives, then you can look for a great support in your spouse if your spouse is working. Midlife is also the time when we start defining what is career success to us. What does it mean, right? Do I define it on the organizational terms or on my terms? Because my situation is extremely unique and the organization is not going to do career pathing for very unique cases, right? So organization probably also is very male centric because there are far higher representation of men, and therefore the policies are all made keeping them in mind. So is a male lens even relevant for me to define my career success? All this leads to your taking far higher ownership of your own career rather than leaving it to the HR people, right? You also find that when you want to seek answers to these simple yet difficult questions, there aren't enough role models, especially senior women mentors in organizations, because of the appalling numbers that I just shared. So you don't have people to talk to get relevant guidance, insufficient and inappropriate role modeling. And many cases, this results in what is called aspirational deficit, which is that many women simply give up, right? I mean, for them to negotiate, understand, become aware, upskill themselves, it becomes quite tedious, especially if they are not able to either have a supporting spouse or supporting ecosystem at home. So many talented and qualified women simply give up, resulting in what is called aspirational deficit, because they are then considered as those folks who don't have sufficient ambition, which is a little ironical, because if they had had a lot of support system, they would have probably excelled and done better at workplace. This is our DNA helix model, and I put this up as a favorite of mine because this is how I think a woman career looks like. Over a period of time, because of the multiple roles she plays, she has to move between one role and the other, across, many situations. On the other hand, if you look at a man's career, most of the time, he has a linear trajectory. Over a period of time, there is a chance that he would hit a leadership position if he works at it very systematically. But however, why is women work representation needed? If the organizations are doing well without women, why should we even worry, right? We should worry because of the following reasons. One is, obviously, women are 50% of the population, and they're highly qualified, highly talented, living longer, accumulating wealth, which means that they are increasingly decision makers at a household level. Now, if more and more homes have women as decision makers, but you don't represent them in workforce, you are missing insights very clearly from a decision maker point of view. There is already a huge representation of 1 billion in workforce. And if you don't take care of them, this number will dwindle and you will find very few people at the top. They bring in diversity of thinking, style, and action. I think the men and women have complementary skills which need to be harnessed together for the long-term growth of any institution or organization. There are also several studies done by leading companies like Catalyst or McKinsey, which have clearly shown that women with representation on board increased financial parameters like return on equity, profit margin, return on investment, or even higher operating results, stronger stock price growth. And furthermore, some other authors have done less bankruptcy, better corporate governance and ethical behavior, more competent in self-development, integrity. So there is a clear business case for women to be represented in higher manner in the workforce, right? This is a study that was done amongst organizations, two sets of organizations, a set which had no women on top management versus companies which had 3 or more women in top management. And the question is, to what extent is your company effective in each of these 9 organizational dimensions, right? So this was done amongst about 58,000 people, a sample, and you will see consistently that companies which had 3 or more women in top management returned better results across capability, leadership, external orientation, accountability, motivation, coordination and control, innovation, direction, work environment, and values, right? I think if really this doesn't drive home the point on why are more women needed in top, I don't know what else will. However, when I talk to women managers across institutions, and I'm on the mentoring group for a couple of organizations, and I mentor women working women, mid-level, junior level, senior level. So there is still this strong conditioning that exists, right? So it is still expected for the mothers to bring up children, and career-oriented women are not looked at very favorably. When you get married and have children, you're expected to stay at home and bring them up. And if your child does not turn out great, then it's always blamed on the mother, right? This is a bit of an ironic data point I just thought I'll put in here. I'm sure many of us can relate to this. One is an external conditioning. The second thing is our own taking a much higher ownership of this role of a mother, and therefore going to any extent to kind of fulfill that. So I was very curious to figure out, is there any difference in the brain, anatomy between a male child and a female child? So there is a book written by Dr. Payal Kumar on unveiling women leadership, where she's clearly, made a claim that the human brain is not fixed, but it's alterable through experience and training, right? So male versus female babies are equal in terms of structure and pattern, etc. But by adulthood, by the time you reach maybe 20, the social conditioning considerably alters the whole thing. There is a role gendering that happens. I mean, car driving is for men, or the girls look at pink colored toys, or boys need to fix the electrical work at home. So we get into so much of role gendering. And there is also guilt that begins to develop, that men are the natural providers at homes. So why are women even bothered? You just take care of the children and be at home. So what can women do to alter brain conditioning? These are some things. You first of all need to have great cognitive clarity, right? You need to be with people to acquire a vision of holistic success with rationale, and more importantly, be accepting of the trade-offs that you may have to make on this. I find a lot of women weak, that they are not able to make the trade-offs, right? The second is focused imagination. You must train yourself, and like was said earlier, the brain is trainable. You must train yourself to see pathways to success in your organization, in the organization that you dream to join, in the role that you want to acquire. Train to see pathways to success and talk to people about it. Maybe external mentors. I'll come to some points later on how to go about it. But this is another very important thing to do to alter brain conditioning, and get select reference group of mentors and support groups, right? I think we must first understand and accept that this is not only our problem, right? It is an institutional problem. It is also the men's problem, right? And it is also therefore a nation's problem. So you should not shy away from seeking mentors, and mentors don't have to be some senior people or women working in your own organization. It could be mentors outside your organization. It could be in forums such as this, right? MMA, a Women Business Forum. So you try and seek senior people who have sufficient experience and exposure in dealing with these kinds of issues, and who can talk you through, or who can give you proper counseling and guidance. There's another bit of research that was done amongst female executives in organization and CEOs, figure out what is preventing women from advancing to corporate leadership, right? So the responses are from two different samples. One is from female CEOs working in the organization. The other is from the female executives. The other is from the CEOs in those organizations. I'm putting this up because many times women get into the victim mode, which simply doesn't help their cause, right? And we are so biased in looking at our own situation in a certain manner, whereas the world is probably not looking at it necessarily in that way. So if you look at the first parameter, CEOs feel that lack of significant general management experience or line experience is what impeding women from advancing to corporate leadership, right? That's a big one, they say. Women not in pipeline long enough is another, another reason CEOs say for not having enough women in the leadership positions. In fact, many of them even go to the extent of saying, we want women leaders, but where are they? They simply go missing, right? If they only discuss their problems a little more and want to work it out, we definitely will be able to do something about it. Male stereotyping and preconception. So if you look at this particular parameter, a lot of female executives feel that this is the big reason why they're not advancing to corporate leadership. Obviously, CEOs don't think this is the reason, right? So there's a clear disconnect here. Exclusion from informal networks. Especially this is true in IT industry and maybe corporates, where there is a lot of informal networking that happens post working hours, right? So women feel that since they are not able to be part of it because of family reasons, personal time, etc., they probably get excluded from the key decisions that organizations make. And that is a reason why they're not advancing in leadership. Inhospitable corporate culture. Many women feel the level of ambition and the aggression is too much for them to handle, and that is a barrier for them to advance. So the key takeaway from this chart is it's important for women to understand what do CEOs expect from women executives who want to advance to leadership position. And very clearly, CEOs are looking for significant general management, broad-based knowledge, and they want women to hang on and not give up, right? So Maithili spoke about glass ceiling. Since all of us have a common understanding on glass ceiling, I'm not going to go to the definition. But again, some research on what are the career strategies required to break the glass ceiling. These are considered very critical. The top three I've put there under the critical column. Women have to consistently exceed performance expectations. And I'm saying this because I feel this barometer is much tougher for women than for men, right? Because women start off with probably an inherent biased thinking from some leadership quarters that they will give up when the going goes tough. They have a backup or a family who are probably the primary breadwinners, and they will not stretch themselves. So it is more important for women to consistently exceed performance expectations to show that they are serious, right? Second is developing a style that men are comfortable with. This was actually a surprise to me. I have worked mostly in sales and marketing, which are very masculine, and also in industries, tough industries like FMCG or Nippon and technology, where I have been surrounded by men. I've always been on the minority, right? But it's important that men look at you as one of them, right? And therefore, you don't make them very conscious about your gender presence. The third is difficult or high visibility assignments. These are actually called glass cliff assignments in corporate parlance. Glass cliff means that there are always these tough assignments which are given to women just to check whether they'll make the cut or not. Actually, those will be quite tough even for men. But for women, it becomes all the more important to prove yourself in these if you want to advance to higher leadership positions, right? So, and of course, there are some more which I have listed here, which are fairly important. Networking with influential colleagues is quite important, right? Initiate discussion regarding career aspirations. This is also a very important trait, and developing leadership outside office. See, many of these may have an overlap with what men also need to do to advance. But the extent to which men need to do many of these is much higher, right? Because we probably have to prove that we are really seriously intentioned about our career growth. Some other points, what successful women do differently, they imagine and they set a goal, right? I'm sure all of us are aware of Indra Nooyi and Chandrika Tandon, the sisters who've done so well for themselves. And she was a global CEO of PepsiCo, Indra Nooyi, and Chandrika Tandon has been the Tandon Capital Associates senior partner at McKinsey. So they believe that setting a clear goal is a starting point. Many of us don't do that. We just think, we take things as they come with the result that we are okay with whatever results also come, right? Second is mentor. I spoke about this before. Have a set of mentors, networks, sponsors, and who will pull up others. I think this is so important for women that as you go higher up, you must raise other women below you, right? Because nobody will understand their situation as much as you. So raise yourself, but also raise others who are with you and below you. Take ownership of career, especially the long stints are really your baby. No HR or no organization is going to understand your nuanced life situation to put together a career strategy for you. And also be aware of some of the happenings. There is, in research, there is a beautiful terminology called double bind. Double bind means women have this need to be liked as well as they want to be aggressive, right? Men don't really care whether they are liked or not, but women like to be, want to be liked, right? Which is something that was very unique to women. So you have to be very aware of that. Are you making decisions because of that? Are you becoming emotional? That is another one, right? Are you not biased enough to be able to state your point? Are you falling into the trap of wanting to be liked? Second is tokenism. There are many organizations which recruit women and leaders just to show tokenism, right? So tokenism, the problem is there are maybe, suppose there is a board comprising 10 members and they've just appointed a couple of women to display to the world that they're also high on diversity. Many times the women find themselves under an extraordinary scrutiny and radar, right? And that actually may end them overperforming or underperforming. Tough trade-offs. I think I spoke about that before, right? You cannot have it all at the same time, at a given point in time. You may get everything over a period of time, but at a given point in time, it's very difficult to have it all, right? So you just need to understand what trade-offs you need to make when. And this one, confidence gap, is my favorite again. So confidence gap, women suffer from confidence gap, however much you're qualified or competent. If there is a advertisement for a new job or a position that comes up, a man who's probably 75 to 80% qualified, he will apply for the job very confidently. A woman who's probably 95% qualified for the job will think 10 times before applying. She's harsh and self-critical on herself. She will think twice before asking for promotion, for a pay rise. So it just doesn't come naturally, right? So we should be aware of this and work on these things. Also broaden the business knowledge and not stick to just technical know-how, right? I think that's one of the factors that we saw in the earlier chart. Broaden your business knowledge, general management, and you should be very adaptable. Travel, relocation, all these should not be a problem. My own experience, I think I briefly mentioned before, so I'm not going to talk about that. So what has been my learning? In retrospect in the last 28, 29 years, when I look back, I feel that all the experiences have contributed to actually making me a better professional too, right? So no regrets at all. When I look back, whether I took a break for being with my kid or when I took a break for, figuring out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life by writing a book, everything adds back. You probably become a better long-term player in the organization when you play a primary nurturing role for a kid or taking care of the aged, right? So everything adds back. So you just need to look at it in that perspective. You need to simply ask for help. Again, we are very bad at this. We don't want visibility on ourselves. We don't ask for help. We really need to change this. And I think I have been extraordinarily fortunate. At least the last 10 years, I have consciously surrounded myself and befriended some senior women who I really respect, who I chat with and ask advice. I also had this problem when I was in corporate because there weren't any women. When I was in HUL sales, I remember out of 33 area sales managers, I was the only woman, right? So, but I think you just need to learn to ask for help and not feel, or not be shy about it. Next thing is be adaptable. Play multiple roles, varying hierarchies. Doesn't matter, right? Different locations. And when you're getting into a new role, like for example, I've shifted from corporate to academia, be kind to yourself in terms of setting goals. Obviously, you're starting off afresh in that particular career. You cannot compare yourself with someone who's been at it for some 15, 20 years, right? So be kind to yourself. The other thing is try part-time before jumping into anything full-time. Very important, right? Before getting into academia, I did visiting faculty. I obviously taught guest lectures. So if someone wants to get into full-time social work, I would strongly advocate do some community work on weekends and see whether it suits you, right? So try what you want to do, try part-time before jumping into it full-time. And never lose sight of your ambition. I think the timing of what you want to achieve is not in your hands, but you really need to hang in there. I think that is the key. And if you have the resilience and the optimism to hang in there, you will simply find your way. I would like to conclude with this concept of feminine leadership by Ila Bhatt, who is a founder of SEVA, right? Self-Employed Women's Association. So she says that feminine leadership is really what the world needs today, right? And by feminine leadership, she quotes the example of Mahatma Gandhi's non-violence and simple approach, where we look at organizational growth based on values and not only simply hard goals that you set. It's more inclusive and not divisive. It's not that you favor a few people at the cost of others. You really try to be looking at collective aspirations of individual and not set benchmarks for the institution based on your individual benchmarks. You have to be open-ended on time, right? I mean, it's a difficult thing to implement because I've been there, but at the end of the day, a long-term collaborative network does not work on the timelines that you want. It does, it's like they say, the butterfly becomes beautiful in its own time. So we just need to give it that time. And this promotes peace and collaboration rather than a harsh competition. So I have realized that women have innate strengths. They need to build on that and not try to ape anybody. And being yourself is really the way to be, right? So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajeshwari. You know, as and when some question arose in my mind, I found that you answered it. It is such a thorough piece of work, and I think it brings together your many different areas of expertise, whether it's researching or teaching or marketing, of course. Many of the things that you said resonated a lot with me because they were actually themes that other women speakers had also touched on. Especially this thing about asking. So I don't have a question, but I'll just make a couple of thing about asking for help and looking for mentors. So I want to once again reiterate to the people in this group, both men and women, who are halfway up their career, that whenever all our speakers, if anybody wants a one-on-one session and some mentorship with them, group captain is here, and we're all here to enable that for you. So we're just putting that offer on the table once again. I particularly liked what you said on, I wish I had met you. I wish I'd heard this about 15 years ago. Because
I wouldn't have been able to say this 15 years ago.
Yeah, what I mean is, while within my area of work expertise, I've tried a few different things. Shifting to something else. I tried very late in my life and I haven't really succeeded. Maybe it was a little too late. But so your point on time, your initial thing on time management, and that give things time, and your time will come. You know, everybody has a different thing. And I will just say one more thing that a couple of other speakers had made was that balance, look for balance in the long term.
Is it buffering or is it just my computer?
Your balance may be skewed towards your work in some other years. As long as over a period of time, again, found your balance. And of course, thank you for reminding all of us once again to be kind to ourselves. Nothing. Thank you, Rajeshwari. Over to Lata and the audience.
Thank you. Rajeshwari, listening to the first part of your talk about personal journey was a bit of a deja vu moment for me. I have not been in a high profile corporate career, which you have, but the trajectory of our paths and choices are very similar. PhD after 12 years. And for me, today's talk was very personal and involving. A lot of valuable takeaways, and thank you for that. As for my question, I have one question, and this comes from my own experience. So I felt there were two kinds of changes you can make at a later age. One is joining a different field, but not changing the thrust or the pace. Basically, you want to make a change, but not to slow down. And there's to make us change just to slow down. So, and as you rightly pointed out, you need more women in the corporate career to make the change. Even if they're making a late change, you want them to, pursue the career so that they can grow. And now info and media tech have opened vast opportunities in various fields for women, giving them flexi time and work options. So I believe that a lot of women are opting for this. And in fact, current figures show that there are a lot more women working from home than we know. That's the latest figure. And they are opting out of typical hierarchical corporate jobs and opting for work from home, consulting to, a lot of people work for American companies, surprising. Now, how do you think we can encourage women to take the other option of getting back to a regular job and growing to the senior management roles that we feel is necessary? Sorry, it was a long question, but I had to explain.
No, that's okay. I think it's an important question. So I don't know whether I'll be able to answer that comprehensively. But I think that effort has to come from multiple stakeholders, Just by convincing women to get back to work, physical workspace, will happen only if the organization is able to incentivize them to do so. When I say incentive, it's not just financial. What I mean is the overall ecosystem, right? There are reasons why women are comfortable working from home. And if those reasons are getting addressed at workplace by the organization pitching in through support systems, whether it's daycare or whether it's a food pantry, whether it's a household help, those kinds of things the organization is able to take care, I don't think they will have a problem to get to work. Because I've also known people, on the other hand, who want to get back to physical workspace because that is their informal go-to group. They have this group that they've become a part of in office, and they miss that actually. So that is also the other side of it. So it has to happen through a multiple stakeholder intervention is what I feel.
Yeah, and just one last thing. Do you think that the US is adapted to this much better? Because almost all my friends have flexi time and work from home. Why is that not catching on here in every company?
You're saying why work from home is not catching on here?
No, work from home is there in certain sectors only.
Oh,
It's
other
not
organizations.
in all jobs.
I think I don't know the numbers in the US, but even in the US, if there are some industries which require your physical presence, I don't think they'll be able to give them work from home, right? So if your nature of work has to be in the laboratory or R&D, or if you're in a plant and equipment machinery, the things where you have to work as a team to achieve a result, it is probably harder to do simply work from home. You have to be at the physical workspace. So on the one hand, I think it is industry dependent very clearly, whether you can work from home or not. On the other hand, if the companies, the situation is industry agnostic and the company wants you to get back to work, they should make it easier for you to overcome that, because consumers are not, I'm sorry, I'm a marketing person, so I keep saying consumers. So women have now discovered a sweet spot by working from home, which allows them to have it all, right? So now the onus is on the organization to give something more than that sweet spot to get them back. And so they have to think like that. Otherwise, it won't last. COVID has given them a very viable alternative. So it's not easy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajeshwari. Very, very inspiring. I think more learning for men than women. I think so many points are, which as Maitli rightly put it across. I think I wish I had listened to all this, but anyway, none of this I would have implemented in Air Force. I'm very safe. Thank you so much. It's a record number of people are watching this, and we got so many questions. Let me try and accommodate as many of them.
Sure.
We got over 700 viewers are watching this program now,
Okay.
various channels, and the number of questions. The first question, I think Dr. Ranjini Mani, global founder of Global Adjustment.
Hello, Ranjini. How are you?
She's not here. She's watching on the webinar.
Sure.
She sent me a question through WhatsApp.
Okay.
And our question is, how could a woman identify purpose as you have done?
How do they identify purpose? Okay, this is a good question.
As you have done. I mean, something similar to what you have done.
See, it's a good question because at the end of the day, you have to find what you're naturally good at, right? And that's what allows you to excel. And whether that's true for men or women. Many of us try and play multiple roles, try to do different things, either because of peer pressure, or maybe the parents were seeing us in that light, or whether for lifestyle reasons. But around middle age, all these reasons begin to give way. You come into your own, and you actually realize that you can only excel if you're being yourself at work and working harder at what you're good at, right? So for me, I'll tell you how I validated my career choice. I went about it in a very logical and a boring manner that may not appeal to you, Ranjini. So I read this book called Strengths Finder. It is by an author called Marcus Buckingham. I'm just going to put that in the chat, okay? So people can see. So this is Marcus Buckingham, Strengths Finder, okay? So this I went through, it has a battery of some, sorry for the typo, battery of some 33 questions that profiles your personality, and tells you what are the possible career options that you may have based on your personality. So I took this and I realized that I'm probably good at a trainer, a marketing professional, a teacher, a PR person. Those are the careers that it threw up. And I validated with my own corporate experience. So when I was in sales and marketing, I reflected back and I realized that the things that I enjoyed doing, and this is a very important insight, you must reflect back at your own career to figure out what you enjoy the most. And I realized I used to love the communication meetings and the salesman talks, and really doing those how do I say training sessions. Those, so I had that in me even during my corporate career days. So I was only taking it to the next level by getting into academia. So for me, it was a very logical progression, and this book really helped me find the sweet spot for my personality. So I think around mid-age, it's good to take a pause and pull back and reflect on whether is this the only professional choice that you want to make your mark on. See, there are many things we can do in life, right? That is obvious. But if you want to make a mark on something, what would it be? And that has to come naturally to you, right? So, and there'll be enough evidences in your own trajectory in the past, whether your bosses may have told you something, you yourself may have enjoyed, you would have built a great team on that, so on and so forth. Or sometimes, for me, it also happened that I took to writing. I think Maithili mentioned this 3 books thing. When I started writing is when I enjoyed how much I enjoy writing. I'm actually an accidental author, but once I started writing, I really loved it. And I realized that that's also probably because my father used to love literature, right? He's no more. He used to love literature and he used to write these small pieces here and there. And I used to admire his writing. So somewhere it was also there in me in a latent manner, and I kind of took it forward. So just look around in your own work experience, look at your maybe parents, maybe some genetic rub-off is there. Look out things which catch your attention when you're free. See, this is another great way to identify your natural strengths. Where does your mind gravitate to when you have free time? Right? What do you think of? Or what do you lose track? When do you lose track of time? Doing what? These things are great pointers to your natural strengths.
Thank you. Another question from Professor, it's Professor Vasudevan. The question is, how much do the successful women leaders reach out to other aspiring career women in mentoring for their career growth? It has come in the chat box.
Sure. I think they can do a lot more, is what I think. Because the journeys are quite unique, they can do a lot more. The forum like these really help. They should consciously allocate some time, I feel, maybe monthly once or something, to simply have sessions with middle management, junior management, etc. How much they're, yes, Michael.
I just wanted to add, actually reply to that question. There's an opportunity for organizations to systematize this.
Yes.
Yeah. And many do. They create platforms and get experienced women and young women together. That's the best way.
True. Absolutely. Formalizing it is a great idea, because that's when even the organization will grow.
There's a question from Sindhu from Chennai. It says, what are some common career challenges that women typically face during their midlife phases? Is it different to different sectors or common to all women?
So some sectors are pretty, idiosyncratic, like IT, for example, may have different time zones that you deal with across the world. So your working hours may be very harsh. So that will make it probably difficult for you to balance your family role and the professional role, because you may be on calls late in the night and early morning, etc. Manufacturing may be hard on you physically. The physical arduity of that may be hard. If you're in sales, for example, the travel bit may be daunting. So I think every sector has its unique challenges, Sindhu. But the key thing is wherever you have to succeed, you have to overcome some challenges, right? So if not this, it's something else. So just look at it in that light, I think.
Great. There's a question from Mr. Ravi from Chennai.
Yeah.
He says, how do midlife career challenges differ for women compared to men?
Okay, so I partly answered that, because the male's career trajectory follows challenge, authenticity, and balance. Whereas for women, it's like challenge, balance, and authenticity. So what happens is, around midlife, the woman is trying to balance it all because she's playing the primary nurturing role at home. She's probably also taking care of the aged, and she's doing the primary household work. So she plus the professional role. So she plays daughter track, spouse track, daughter-in-law track. So the career track doesn't quite feature in the same length and breadth. Whereas for men, at least the kind of conditioning that we have here tends to be more supportive of his primary careers. So to that extent, the midlife challenges for women are higher and diverse than for men.
I think similar to thing once Ram Kumar raised a question from Chennai. He says, are there any specific societal or cultural factors that contribute to midlife career challenges for women? Because he says many times the family pressure makes the woman to do a lot of decisions, not her own, maybe compelled by the family. Yeah. How do you come out in such situations?
I mean, I don't think there is one answer to that. You have to systematically negotiate and I mean, these are things which are very personal, right? And they're easily said than done. The only thing I feel as a principle is if you are very committed to your career and you don't mind making those trade-offs, you will eventually get there, That's all I have. In a bigger sense, that is what it is. And you take stakeholders on your side, even if it is familial. I remember Indrani used to say the story that when her kids were born, she used to bring her relatives over to her house in the US for a period of 3 months or 6 months to actually do babysitting. And she would sponsor their visit, take care of their travel and everything. So the babies got the benefit of relatives at home while she and her husband could go to work. So you have to think out of the box, right? Because you want it, not them. So you have to think differently.
Even now that it happens, my sister goes to US regularly to do that. Now,
Rajeshwari, I just have a question or a point of view that for some reason, if a woman is not able to get back to working, and she has made that decision or whatever, that also is okay.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Totally agree. Yes.
That is also okay. And that pressure of having taken the decision, she mustn't examine that decision every day or feel that she's any lesser for not having been able to, make that choice and step back. And as you said, be kind to herself.
Yeah.
For having made that choice. And it's
yes.
okay. And there are always other things
that
you can find to do that will be equally fulfilling, even if it is not a job.
Absolutely. Correct.
I agree. That also is something we should.
In fact, I totally agree with that, Maithili. She has to choose. It's her choice, basically, right? As long as you're not forced to do anything, it's fine. And there is a lot of glory in being a homemaker. And if you do it with pride and joy, that's great. Or if you want to be an artist or an athlete, or there are so many ways to live life, right? It's all perfectly fine as long as you are giving it your best and you're very joyful about that choice, right? But also, I just want to mention that for women who are keen to get back to work, right, after a break or a sabbatical, Great Lakes has launched this program called Encore. I put that in the chat box.
Yes.
This Encore stands for Enabling Career Opportunities and Returnship for Women. Now, what the basis of this program is women who are on a break need some kind of an upskilling and reskilling to get back to work. So Great Lakes has tied up with organizations like Accenture and Mindtree, who have given us the curriculum in, say, digital marketing, product management. And we have put together a program, 4-month online program, where women on a break can register and they have scholarships available for them. At the end of the 4-month program, they will be given a job interview opportunity, 100% with Accenture or, this thing, CTS. So we are very, very optimistic about the space of women and careers, and we want to definitely do our bit in encouraging this Encore. So I would suggest that you can look up Great Lakes on Encore and you will find more details on this. Yeah.
Great initiative. I think many should make use of that. The next question is from Yamuna from Salem. It says, how do midlife career challenges impact work-life balance and overall well-being of women? Do you have any personal anecdotes of yours?
Okay, so I remember an article that I read in Harvard Business Review years back on what makes a person happy. Okay. And that article, apart from so many other things, said that the two biggest contributors to happiness are one is having deep personal relationships. It could be with a friend, a spouse, or a mentor, whatever. So having deep personal relationships makes one happy. The second is realizing your potential makes you happy, right? So if you're aware of this, I think you should give your best in both. Right. And of course, things may not necessarily work out always the way you want, but you'll have the satisfaction that you've given your best. So from that angle, I think this work-life balance will get, how do I say, evened out in the long run if you're able to achieve both of these, whether it's realizing your potential and having deep personal relationships. It could be with people at work too, right? So my answer is a little philosophical, but I have tried to keep this in my mind when I make my life choices. I do have some terrific people who I can bank upon, and also I really enjoy my work. So it's a continuous journey, I think.
We got another 7-8 minutes. I'll try and squeeze in as many questions as possible.
Sure.
It is a question of Mr. Rajiv, again from Chennai. You spoke about brain trainable. Is it internal effort you have to do it on your own, or need an external effort, conscious effort you should make to train your brain? I think what he says, you read books, you watch programs, all that is brain trainable. What is there something extra you think suggest for the people brain trainable initiative?
Okay, actually, I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question as a scientist or whatever. My bigger point in making that was that there is nothing really different between a male and a female baby's brain, and it is trainable and alterable, and you can decondition yourself. Whether it's internal or external, I think one has to do more understanding and studying to arrive there.
Yeah, as long as you control amygdala, I think it's fine. This is what I learned from one of the great lectures only. Next question is from Mr. Gurumurthy, again from Chennai. Madam, you mentioned about mentoring. Mentoring, is it advisable to have more than one mentors? Because just for my comfort zone clarity, is it good to have more than one mentor?
I always think so. In fact, I have multiple mentors myself, because I think nobody is good at everything, right? I mean, we all bring to the table different strengths and different traits. So I have someone, when I want to bounce off women health issues, I may have a main mentor. Professional life, I may have a mentor. Relationships, I may have a mentor. That's perfectly okay. I think you must have multiple mentors.
Yeah. Sports, Tiger Woods has almost 13 mentors for his golf, actually. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
So good. Next question is from Usha. She is again from Chennai. So what role do personal aspirations and family responsibilities play in midlife career decisions for a woman?
Very, very important, right? Very high level of intensity and involvement a woman has. For her, many women almost feel guilty pursuing their careers, even though they are amazingly talented and qualified. So what role does it play? For us, I think it's more a question of how do I get the best of both? But the insight is that we would rather struggle for both than have one at the cost of the other, right? We don't want to choose one over the other. We will struggle and struggle, but we are happy struggling. That is the insight, right? So the role that it has is very high. So it's Usha, right? So you have family goals, you have professional goals, and you struggle to make them happen. So that's what it is.
Okay. Again, a question from Vijay Lakshmi. She's from Salem. How can we encourage women to take risk and pursue new career opportunities during the stage of their lives? Is it worth taking the risk, and how to win the family confidence, support for this, financial issues? How do you manage it all?
Very, very. I mean, it's a life question, really. I think you should go for small wins to start with. Don't make it like a huge some 10-year plan or something. You take it step by step and inch your way through by doing those small wins in the context of a larger picture. So you have to involve the stakeholders, whether it's your spouse or your children or your boss at work, or even maybe a HR person. You have to involve them. You must, in fact, midlife is a time where you definitely have to do a career reimagining exercise, because nobody will imagine your career for you. Only you have to imagine, right? Because it's not a straightforward linear path. You have multiple roles to play. So you must embark on a career reimagining exercise and think of, this is my next step. What are the possible barriers I'm going to have? And how do I overcome my barriers? And sit with the stakeholders and talk. You just upfront it and talk. Don't avoid the issue, right? And definitely things will not happen overnight, but if you're at it and if you're very sincere, I think things will begin to open up slowly.
I always found those one who constantly upskill themselves.
Yeah.
I think they're done extremely well.
Yeah.
All the time they are more
That's
confident.
true. That's
also.
true.
So I
See
think
that you're right, Captain. See, that's what the CEOs are saying, right? We want more people with a broader vision about business, general management. You have to constantly be hungry and hungry for growth. Many women don't take the initiative to upskill in themselves or even invest in themselves for higher learning. They say, why should I spend on myself? Which is very unfortunate. Why should you not spend on yourself, right? They'd rather spend on the kids and the husband. You should also spend on yourself for upskilling and learning. Yeah.
here's a quick question that come the moment you spoke about skill. This is Anu from Nagpur. She wants to know, what are some best practices for women to continue skill development and stay relevant to their industries during their midlife career?
I think today it's become much easier, right? With so many online courses available, many of them free from top universities across the world, and also these Coursera and Udemy, etc. So I think you should, if you are clear about what industry you want to be in, talk to some senior industry mentors in terms of the role profiles that you're looking at. And there will be, roles which will require certain kinds of skills which the mentor himself or herself can advise. Enroll into this, do a digital marketing course or a AI in business course kind of stuff. So go about it in a systematic manner. And there are many online resources available today. Not a problem at all.
Okay. Here's a question from Ram Mohan from Trichy. He says, are there any policies, initiatives that organization can implement to create more inclusive and supportive work environment for a midlife women employees? How can this be enforced in an organization effectively?
Well, if I think the leader is convinced, if the leader is convinced, half your battle is won. You can introduce sabbaticals, you can introduce work from homes, you can introduce paternity leave, right? You can introduce a mentor on mentor program. There's so many things you can do. You can put together a pantry where many women don't stay back late at work because they have to go home and cook. You just have a pantry or a food delivery system, right? So you can have, if possible, you can have a tie-up with a daycare for taking care of kids. There are so many things one can do.
Yeah, another 3 minutes. I'll try and squeeze in 1 or 2 questions more. Here's a question from Kajal from Coimbatore.
Yeah.
Are there any successful case studies of women who have overcome midlife career challenges and achieved significant professional growth? It could be a great guidance to many women who are watching this program. I think you are a real case study, Rajeshwari.
I don't think I'm a huge success or anything, but I think, see, the thing is, it depends on, like I said earlier, what is success to you, right? How do you define success? That's what it comes back to, right? Becoming a managing director was my metric of success when I started working. But when I saw that I was not giving enough time to my kid or, neglecting, I took a step back. But now I feel that I am able to achieve a more holistic success. So the woman's definition of success is not about her own success, but also the success of people who are probably dependent on her, like the kids, for example. So you have to arrive at your own definition of success. So there is nothing high or low or enough or not enough in that. It's a very personal metric.
Okay, one last question for the evening, madam, before we let you go. And Maithili, I request to give a closing remark. A question from Lieutenant Ramya from Indian Navy.
Yeah.
She says, what are some effective strategies for women to navigate career transition during midlife? I mean, what she means is she's going to leave the armed forces, come to civil life. What is the best way to do the transition?
Okay. See, I would advocate that she can read this book, Marcus Buckingham's Strengths Finder, So that gives a fairly good, it's like a psychometric profiling to throw up her strengths. And based on her strengths, maybe she can reach out to career consultants and try her hand at doing those things part-time first. See, because
when you try to jump into it full time, you miss a lot of hidden parts. What is, like, for example, as a faculty, what you know about teaching is only the classroom part of it. But there is also a lot of admin work, like there is an attendance or question paper setting, paper correction, which may not be very palatable, right? But you will never know that unless you do it part-time. So get a view of what all it takes by doing part-time and then taking a final call. So reading the book, maybe approaching a career consultant, doing something part-time will help. That's what I think.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rajeshwari. Very fascinating. Thank you for patiently responding to all the questions. And I must say
My
it's a
pleasure,
great
my
insight to the people. And maybe I now request Maithili to give a closing remarks. Then we'll present
Thank you.
an
Thank you
online
very
memento
much.
to you, madam.
Sure, sure.
For the midst of very practical advice and at the same time bringing a lot of optimism and hope to the topic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lata.
Thank you so much, Maithili. Thank you, Lata. And thank you, Captain, for the session.
Thank you, Lata. Gentlemen, my team MMA, do you have an online memento for madam? But anyway, she is in Chennai only. I can get it sent across to a place. Is it there, Sundar, Sheikh? Yes, you got it.
Oh, how
So
nice.
what we do, ma'am, on behalf of you, we'll be privileged to present textbook to the poor students. We do a lot of work with CSR work with number of school children.
Right.
So on your behalf, because people like you come and speak to us, and a lot of people come and listen to us and they help us. So this is what we do.
Right.
We do a lot of work, CSR work, and it's a great privilege for to do it on your behalf.
Right.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you very much.
again watching. Thank you, viewers. 700 is a big number. Please share. They'll be in YouTube uploaded from a few hours from now. You must share this. This will be a really ready reckoner for many other women who are planning to do a midtime. The number of doubts what they have, they'll be able to clarify this. And thank you, Rajeshwari. I know how busy you are, taking time to be with
My
us
pleasure.
this evening, and looking forward to seeing you more in MMA. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Thank you, Maithili. Really good reconnecting. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
It was very nice.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, madam. Bye-bye. Good night till we meet again. Thank you, Maithili. I will give a call and catch up soon.